The Trinka podcast, academic writing done right. Hi, my name is Dr. KK, and I'm very excited to bring to you a fresh episode of the Trinka podcast, the podcast that covers everything related to academic publishing and writing and editing and the use of language technology tools into your workflows. So, welcome once again to the Trinka podcast, where today we discuss the impact, concerns, and workarounds for ChatGPT in the academic publishing space. These are the points that I intend to take you through. First, we'll set the stage by talking about ChatGPT in the context of academic publishing. Then we'll take a look at some positives, and trust me, there are a lot of them. And then let's take a look at some of the concerns and the ways to mitigate them, especially those regarding plagiarism, bias, and accuracy. And finally, I'll leave you with some parting thoughts. So let's set the stage by talking about ChatGPT in the context of academic publishing. Now, what is ChatGPT? ChatGPT is a generative large language model developed by OpenAI based on the generative pre-trained transformer architecture, which is otherwise abbreviated as GPT. It uses deep learning techniques to generate natural language text, which can be difficult to distinguish from human-generated text in many contexts. GPT has been trained on an enormous amount of data from the internet, including books, articles, and websites. One of the most impressive capabilities of ChatGPT is its ability to generate content in the form of contextually appropriate responses to a wide range of prompts, including bizarre ones. That's something that you can see on the screen, where I asked ChatGPT to tell me when the Andromeda and the Milky Way galaxies will collide with each other and whether I should build a bunker for it. ChatGPT can carry on a conversation with a human in a way that feels natural and engaging. In addition, it can also perform a wide variety of language-related tasks, such as summarizing text, translating between languages, and answering questions. Now, these capabilities are truly remarkable, and it has the potential to revolutionize many fields, including academic publishing. For example, researchers can find quick answers to questions that would otherwise take a lot of time for them to research. Its ability to generate text quickly could be useful for researchers struggling to find time to write research papers, reports, or any other academic documents. And finally, its ability to summarize large amounts of information could make it easier for researchers to keep up with the latest developments in their fields. Of course, there are many other potential use cases. But it also raises an important question about the role of artificial intelligence in research and the potential consequences of relying too heavily on technology. So we are here to explore ChatGPT's influence on academic publishing, both the good and the bad, and also we would like to share some recommendations on how this inevitable transition can be made smooth. Now, here are some ways that I could think of on how ChatGPT can help researchers write academic papers. ChatGPT can be used to generate ideas when you face a roadblock in terms of writing. Just give it a prompt and guide it towards suggesting you different ways to approach the current problem you're facing. It can even help you structure your arguments. And everything depends on the detail and the nuance in your prompts, obviously. And people tend to learn accordingly. Now, ChatGPT is excellent at developing outlines and then building an early draft of any type of content, and you can thus use it for your own academic research papers as well. You can build the entire content or the text content in a stepwise manner, from a manuscript outline to section outlines and even paragraph level content. This can help you save time and improve the overall quality of your writing. ChatGPT can also help you improve your language by correcting spelling and grammar errors, just like any grammar checker, I suppose. And it can also suggest synonyms for overused words, alternative sentence structures, and even changing the tone of your text and the strength of your argument. And in my personal use case, this last bit, changing the tone and the strength of the argument, is a very strong point with ChatGPT. It can suggest technical terms and jargons commonly used in any particular field, making your text more technical if you want it to sound more technical and more relevant to the audience from any particular niche field. Similarly, you can customize the text to avoid and include phrases or idioms particular to a geography, which is basically localizing your content. ChatGPT can help you find relevant research sources for your paper. You can input a topic or a keyword, and ChatGPT will provide you with a list of relevant research articles, books, and websites, and it can save you a lot of time and effort. But keep in mind that the free version of the ChatGPT may not have the most current or up-to-date information. ChatGPT can be used to check your paper for plagiarism as well. You can copy paste your paper into ChatGPT or the content of your paper into ChatGPT, and it will check it against a database of other papers to ensure that there is no plagiarism in your work. Now, this can be helpful to avoid accidental plagiarism and to ensure that your work is original. And in my own personal experience of testing ChatGPT, this has not quite worked out well, but it still has that capability. Now, if you happen to notice that there is some plagiarist text in your paper, you can use ChatGPT to paraphrase the content so that you can avoid accidental plagiarism. So that is, I think, more of a strength and of ChatGPT in the context of academic writing. It can assist you in summarizing longer texts. You can input lengthy articles or papers into ChatGPT and it will generate a summary of the main points. Now, this can help you quickly understand any key ideas that are there in the paper or the text that you put in and use them to support your arguments. Now, academic publishing summarizers are very common, but ChatGPT is another way that you can explore this. ChatGPT can help in generating abstracts for research papers. Again, it is an outline that I'm talking about here, not exactly writing some content. You can input your paper into ChatGPT and it will generate a summary of the main points which can be used as a basis for your abstract. You can refine and edit the abstract further based on the generated summary. ChatGPT can also help in reorganizing your ideas for better coherence and structure. You can input a draft of your paper into ChatGPT and it will suggest better ways to rearrange and group related ideas to improve the overall flow of the paper. Now, let's take a look at some of the concerns regarding its use, ChatGPT's use in academic text. The main concerns with the advent of such large language generative models in the academic writing space is the controversy regarding the originality and attribution, ethical aspects like bias and inaccuracies in the content that such models generate. There is also the concern regarding ChatGPT taking over many of the roles in academic publishing space, now thus leading to job losses. As we speak, that is less of a concern, at least in my personal opinion. Instead, there is a huge scope of workflow improvements for researchers, with the caveat that measures need to be put in place for factoring in the concerns. Now, let's take a look at some of these regarding the concerns, especially those related to originality, bias, and inaccuracies. So let's take a look at the originality related concerns. All language models like ChatGPT, when they are made available, could be used for unethical purposes such as plagiarism, right? So generative models do not have the control over how the content that that they generate is being used or how they are being used, and the responsibility almost entirely lies with the creators, the regulators, or the users. Hence, it is almost natural and easy to be dismissive of such developments in the field of academic publishing. However, it is important to note that plagiarism is not unique to AI generative language models and can be committed by traditional forms of research and writing. Just like, if you were to look up something and if you were to copy some text or unintentionally even, that is tantamount to plagiarism. Now, that being said, there are several measures that can be taken to mitigate the risk of unethical use of ChatGPT and other language models. It is important to educate users on the proper use of ChatGPT and the potential consequences of unethical use. This includes providing guidance on citing sources and avoiding plagiarism, basically, academic hygiene. Developers can implement safeguards to prevent the use of ChatGPT for unethical purposes. For example, they can restrict access to certain features or limit the number of requests per user to prevent mass generation of content. Now, if you are a subscriber of the ChatGPT Pro versions, you will already have seen something like, every 3 hours you can put in like 20-25 prompts or something. So that is there, and such measures can be put in place. Monitoring the use of large language models can help detect potential instances of unethical use. Developers can use tools such as the anomaly detection and natural language processing algorithms, NLP algorithms, to identify instances of plagiarism and other unethical behavior. It is important to note that the responsibility for preventing the unethical use of ChatGPT and other language models does not solely rest on the developers of the technology itself. Rather, it is a shared responsibility, as I've mentioned, of all stakeholders, including the users, educators, researchers, and policymakers. And the idea is to promote ethical behavior and prevent the misuse of technology. As discussed before, ChatGPT can generate text that appears to be original but may contain text that is copied, and sometimes it can be copied verbatim from other sources. It may be difficult to detect this immediately, and such generation can be either via the copy text in the prompt that the users provided, or as input from the text that it is trained on. As mentioned above, you can use ChatGPT itself to detect plagiarism, but for more sophisticated detection, you may need to use a plagiarism checker, like the professional, the paid ones, Authenticate, etc., Turnitin, and that they can be expensive, so that is a challenge. One partial workaround is to educate users on the importance of citing sources. The prompts themselves can include such requests, and users can be asked to verify the citations and paraphrase the obviously plagiarized content, maybe with the help of ChatGPT itself. Organizations have already developed tools that detect AI-generated text when such text is uploaded on their portals. Many have already mandated the acknowledgement of the use of generative AI, for example ChatGPT, and there are already cases where ChatGPT is listed as an author, which is a very controversial topic, so we won't, I think that is a way forward eventually, but I think it's more like helping and assistance, like acknowledging the fact that a researcher has used ChatGPT in writing the paper. Developers can also implement safeguards to prevent the use of ChatGPT for plagiarism. For example, they can limit the amount of text that can be generated at once, or require users to provide input text that is original and properly cited. In this situation, one could argue that the most important aspect would be to foster a culture of academic integrity and ethical behavior. This includes promoting honesty, transparency, and ethical conduct in all aspects of academic work, including the use of AI language models like ChatGPT. Now that we've tackled some ways to mitigate originality-related concerns, let's take a look at how to mitigate bias in the context of ChatGPT. ChatGPT is trained on large data sets of text with biased language, or it could be fed in biased inputs through prompts. Biases in AI language models can take many forms, such as racial, gender, and cultural biases, and can have a significant negative impact on the individuals or groups that are affected by the biases. Developers could carefully curate and select the datasets used to train the model and remove biased or sensitive language from the training data, which ironically can be done by AI-based tools using techniques such as debiasing and adversarial training. Also, diversifying training datasets, that is to include all types of content on all types of things and people, can help improve this situation. Users, on the other hand, can critically evaluate the model's output and check for any potential biases or inaccuracies. This should be a natural part of searching and vetting information, where it is customary to seek multiple sources and perspectives to ensure that a balanced and inclusive representation of information is provided. Now, let's take a look at what you can do about the issues related to accuracy. The accuracy of generated text by ChatGPT will be very dependent and limited by the datasets that it has been trained on. For example, ChatGPT will not be able to give you up-to-date responses, at least the free version will not be able to give you up-to-date responses regarding many topics, because the free version is limited to information until 2021. This is as of April 2023 when this episode is being recorded. The responses from these models will only be as good as the prompts that they're given, that we know. And the good thing about this is that the quality of the text generated can be vastly improved iteratively, even by the sequential refinements and detailing in your prompts. And that's something that I've enjoyed in terms of my experience with ChatGPT for all the use cases. Generative language models do not have a true human understanding of the text that they read or generate. Hence, their interpretation and generation will have related flaws. Now, we discussed this in more detail in our previous episode, the last episode on generative language models, and we will try to link you to that episode. If you're watching it on YouTube, you'll probably find a link on the screen itself or on the description. Generative models are known to come up with statements that cannot be corroborated using the datasets that they've been trained on, and this is referred to as a hallucination. Of course, there are many more of these kind of aspects, but we'll have to devote another episode for discussing the entire thing. Now, I'll leave you with some final thoughts. ChatGPT comes with a lot of benefits for individuals in the academic publishing space, but it comes at a cost of the issues related to its use. On one hand, it is extremely unwise to overlook the potential to harness its power in improving workflows, but blindly using it without understanding its limitations is equally flawed, in my opinion. Now, with strong regulatory measures, from developers and the authorities, and smart usage instincts by users and publishers, we have to allow the use of such tools with the necessary attribution requirements, and things should work out okay. But which gripping story ever ends with a satisfyingly good ending, right? I'll leave you with that thought at the end of this episode of the Trinka podcast, Academic Right. I hope that you enjoyed the content that we published in this episode, and the Trinka podcast covers everything related to academic writing and publishing and the use of language technology, and so the ChatGPT influence on academic publishing was a perfect topic in this confluence. So until the next episode, this is Dr. KK signing off for the Trinka podcast, Academic Writing Done Right. Bye-bye.